Hey there, Giant fans of fun. It's Thad, the theme park giant. And today I'm bringing you a little special something. I've been wanting to do the behind the scenes tour basically my entire life and haven't done it. I've got some friends who agreed to do it almost 2 years ago and then kind of disappeared on me. We'll talk to them more later. Now they're rolling their eyes off camera, but we're all excited to be here and do it. So come along, let's go have a giant day of fun. So we are all checked in. We're supposed to check in about 15 minutes before your tour. You get your little lanyard here. Our tour cost us, today is February 1st, it's a Saturday. We paid $33 and about 50 cents per person, and that was with the annual pass holder discount. The tour is an hour long, so I guess we're gonna find out a lot about the plans. So the first thing you do after you check in, like I said, you get there about 15 minutes early. You have to sign some waivers, some paperwork, but you meet your tour guide. So we were going right at 12:30. There are tours every hour, essentially from 10:30 in the morning until 4:30 at night is the last one. He walks you through like, hey, we're gonna be backstage. It's okay to video things. Pictures are fine. Like usually when you're backstage, you're not allowed to, but this tour is a little different. Even the very backstage areas, it was totally fine to film. So I did. The first room you come into is all about the pests and how they handle it. So you'll see behind him, there are those aquariums essentially. And you'll see some footage here later, but you can actually see they grow these bugs so they can work on pest treatment. One that they prefer to use, and they'll walk through it. There's a whole video in here they show you, but they actually use other insects. Like in the video, you see the ladybug eating the aphid when you ride Living with the Land. It's stuff like that. So actually walk through the whole process of this. I can't think of the name of the bug now, the insect now, but it actually will like burrow into the leaves and eat all the larvae of the pests that are going to cause issues to the plants. Now our guide, he's worked at EPCOT for quite a few years, it seemed like, but he grew up a farmer in Indiana. I believe he has a PhD in some sort of agricultural science. He taught for many years, and now he does tours at EPCOT. But he was extremely knowledgeable, knew his stuff. Any questions that were asked, he had the answer. Like it wasn't just like, hey, he's a tour guide that works there. He's an actual scientist that understands this stuff. So it was really interesting to learn a lot of this. You spend a good probably 15 minutes in this room. It's kind of funny because it's near the end of the ride, and you hear that tunnel music that's playing like constantly. Like I think right behind those curtains is basically the end tunnel. But here's more of, he actually says like you can go tap on the glass here, so you can actually see they're growing these pests in here so that they can work on experimenting with different pesticides. Not actually, they don't really use pesticides. I think they mostly use other insects within the greenhouse. Here's a video they show of where I was telling you they'll burrow into the actual plants and get the larvae out. They had a whole video explaining this part. I am definitely not an expert on this, so not going to sit here and act like I am, but it was really interesting. So those first leaves, it shows, so I'm going to pause it here, but the first leaves I showed, they looked like normal leaves. They were growing the pests in there. And then the second level of the aquariums they have set up, you can actually see where the pests are causing damage, but they're bringing in the other insects to come in and eat them. And like this shows that whole process essentially. And yes, you can, they tell you to tap on things and whatever. Here's some of the larvae. And then you get your audio equipment. There's me and my friends posing with ours, but it is really nice. You get an earpiece, and then they speak into a microphone. Because as you get into the greenhouses, it's a lot harder to hear them. Like that first room, you can hear them just fine, but those greenhouses are big open areas, so it's definitely very helpful to hear a lot of this. That's why I'm not actually really playing the video with sound, because you can't really hear the tour guide very well on the video, so you have to hear me yap over the top of it. But here we are walking back, really backstage area here, but we're about to get to the part at the end of the ride where you see the FDA scientists that actually work in that lab. This is the back side of that lab you're going to see as we come around the corner here. But all these samples that they have, they're always building these samples out, and like these might sit here for months or a year and grow in their tubes. And then what happens is they're able to grab these, so when they come in and harvest things or they change crops out in the greenhouses, these are their starting points. So it's already a plant that's been growing in the lab. They may also be running different tests on things, but a lot of this is preparing for like the next planting when they do change things out. So they actually work with the USDA on these things. They're doing research. I think there's some grants, actually, like government grants, that where there are actual employees here working on research. This is us actually going into the attraction here. I had to video this because I'm such a nerd, but this is really one of my first real backstage tours I've done. I've been backstage for weddings and receptions and things like that, but never quite like this, where you're in the ride. As you can see, the boats are going by. I waved at probably 5 or 6 of the boats while we were standing there. I enjoyed interacting with people because they're all looking at you like, what's going on over there? But if you're familiar with living with the land, you know this is the hydroponics area. Our guide walked us through, the very advanced system they use, where he's like, no one's going to build this, in their house, but it works really well. It saves on resources. It's only, spraying the plants as they go by with just as much water and nutrients as they need. It doesn't need soil. You're not taking up as much land, any land, so erosion's not an issue, things like that. But it was really cool to see this up close, being able, they actually encourage you to like look down and see the sprayers as they go by. But I've always thought the hydroponics area was super cool, and getting to see it up close like that was awesome. And right here, you can actually see down in that trench, I guess, where it's spraying them as they go by. They have those nozzles set up every few feet, but yeah, just all day these plants are going through, getting sprayed. It's a really cool idea. One of the cool things our guide did throughout the tour was point out, that hydroponic system we just watched, that's a commercial scale. You know, a home gardener is not going to be able to do anything like that unless they're going to invest $15,000-$20,000 in a system, and at what benefit is that to you? So they would take those ideas and also present, if you're a home gardener, there were these towers you could build, and it is essentially the same idea, where you're saving space, the plants are hanging up and you can do them like this. I thought that was really cool. It was funny, our group wasn't really, he asked, is anyone a gardener? Is anyone a farmer? Not one person raised their hands. I think we were all just EPCOT nerds that wanted to go on the attraction. Actually, there was a 10-year-old girl that was obviously very interested in this stuff. She asked incredible questions the entire time, like questions I would have never thought of. Not that I'm some agricultural, savant. I'm not even close, but like really good questions about, like, are there issues with cross pollination and things like that in the greenhouse. The guide actually took her aside at the end and said, "Thank you for all the great questions. I wish more kids were like you when I taught." But So it is really cool. It's kind of an open forum. You know, you can ask questions. Luckily, we didn't have any bad question people. You know what I'm talking about on a tour. But our group was pretty awesome. So, but I did love that they gave you these alternatives that you could try at home if you wanted to. And then here's just some shots of the boats going by while you're standing just a few feet away. This plant was really cool. I cannot remember the name of it, but it's essentially in the same family as a Venus flytrap. You see what it looks like now compared to a few seconds before there. Sorry, my video player's not cooperating with me. But when you touch it, the leaves actually like shrink. I'm gonna try and show it here. My friend was, so if you watch, yeah, you see how they kind of shrink up. Well, our guide actually shook the whole pot right before I took this, so you see everything. I mean, it looks wilted, but he said they usually reset in like 7-8 minutes. But kind of a cool plant. I don't know what that was, but this area over here, you actually get to try some of the harvest of some of the more recent vegetables, but they also hand out some of the different things they put in the ground. So like perlite is a really good drainage, or perlite is a really good drainage thing they put. But they pass out samples of that stuff, and then you get other samples. And with it being EPCOT, they have some super high certification for like recycling and just environmentalism. So everything, even the toothpicks that we got our cucumbers on, the toothpicks went into a specific spot because they had to be recycled differently. But I mean, you just expect that kind of stuff at EPCOT. Here's me eating a cucumber, which I'm sure is just the riveting content that you're looking for. Um, Cucumber was really good. We actually got two if we wanted them because they had extras. No extra charge. Thanks, Disney. We made our way into the second greenhouse, and here you can see more vertical growing going on. A lot of these are just kind of different variations of vertical growing, hydroponics, saving space, just experimenting with different ways to grow things. But so you can see here, they do have soil, but they grow everything straight up. And everything you'll see essentially in here, it's all about spraying the root at certain times with exactly the amount of water and nutrients that you need. So at the end of the day, they're all very similar processes that you see, but each is a little bit different. And then here, he was saying that chefs from the restaurants on property will actually reach out to them and say, hey, we want to do some like micro herbs. I can't think of the word. But like, so they'll just throw out a cookie sheet with some paper towels on it and grow them, and they'll swing by in a couple weeks and grab them. So just kind of cool. He was saying that they'll grow different vegetables based on some requests from the chefs, or maybe the chef wants to try a dish and he heard that they've been growing this vegetable, so he'll ask, the chef will ask for, send me like a dozen of those, and they'll work on a new dish, and if it's popular enough, then they'll start to source that vegetable from their food suppliers. Here's another vertical grow system. This is how they do a lot of their herbs. It seems to work really well for it based on what he said. Things grow really fast. They harvest a lot. He said the only really annoying thing is when they switch them out, it's a pain to deal with those like vertical, I don't know, they look like gutters to me, but yeah, he said that's the biggest issue with those, but they work amazing. And then just more variations here. As you can see, we've got these spinning, you know, PVC pipe spirals. Yeah, I'm not, we didn't get a whole lot of talk about that one. That was another one where he said, like, this is more of a commercial grade facility. You're not going to build this at home. And then I thought these were really interesting because, they have these terraces like with the lattice, but they'll have one big pot in the middle and all the roots will go up, and then the plants grow out from there. But as you can see, then the harvest just kind of hangs down, and it's really easy for them to get things, to take care of the plants. I thought this one was really fascinating. And just another one of those hydroponic setups. I mean, we've all seen it going through with the Epcot built out in the lettuce, or like they used to do the 100 years or whatever. There's always some hidden thing in these lettuce displays, but these are really cool. It just basically drips water down, gravity takes control, and it works really well for them. I think they harvest every like 30 days or something. It might actually be quicker than that. And then there was this fun little Easter egg here that was hanging up. So they used to grow Mickey-shaped cucumbers, and they would have them at the parks and things like that. Apparently they don't do it anymore, but they still have the form that they would use. So if you never knew how they do that stuff, like I remember when I first learned that watermelons were rectangle in Japan to save fridge space, it blew my mind that you could grow it in a rectangle. And then like one of my friends from college told me, well, yeah, you just put it in a box and then it shapes like that. And I had no idea you could just shape different fruits and vegetables to make it look like you want. So I'm probably just super ignorant on that, but I've learned that like 20 years ago, and it still fascinates me. So this cucumber form was awesome. I don't know why. But then here we are with another variation of a like vertical hydroponic grow. As you can see, just behind him, like I'm using my mouse here, but this right here, right by his leg, this is where the root of all those plants is. So they make it so it wraps up around this pipe. This is all PVC pipe. And then as you can see, they've got these casa bananas growing like crazy here. But yeah, so this one, it just sprays that root right there with water and nutrients, and that's all this plant needs to produce all of this. It's pretty fascinating, honestly. Then here he is just showing us there was one next to it where they'd buried these PVC pipes in the ground, and they're essentially just poked holes in them, so it's like a sprinkler. But they use those in the sand for some of the things. Actually, kind of behind that woman there, these things back here. Here he's showing us some coffee plants. Apparently they grew these back in Food and Wine like over a decade ago and have just kept them. They don't really use them, but he was really excited about the coffee stuff. He was showing us all the different berry types and explaining that you hand pick the coffee beans because they're better that way. So that's why coffee is so expensive when you buy it, because it's hand picked. And as the tour continues to the greenhouses, you get to see some of the gourds that they'll, you know, grow. He was telling us they were using these as ladles for like kettle corn at one of the festivals. They scooped them out and would use it as an actual scoop. Here we are. These are Carolina Reaper peppers over here. You see the boat right next to us. And then, yes, we get to go into the fish building, is what I like to call it. Here, this was the most shrimp I've ever seen in these tubes. Like, usually there's like one or two, but there were a ton today. And I ride Living with the Land a lot. And these were the biggest shrimp I've ever seen. But our guide was telling us that typically you don't see many of them together in these aquariums because shrimp are cannibals and will eat each other. So they tend to not let them near each other. I did not know that. We got more shrimp here. We got the hidden Mickeys all over. Boats going through. We got some bass. Got a hidden Mickey. I do love that hidden Mickey, especially during the glimmering greenhouses. I love that. And then he was just showing us the fish, got the sea bass and then the tilapia. we talked about the tilapia quite a bit. He said that usually the tilapia, they have more fish in one of the aquariums because tilapia actually like to be super crowded. So when you see those tanks and they're super crowded, like the fish actually like that. I don't know who the fish told that to, but that's what our guide said. And I'm not gonna lie, being like just a few feet away from boats as they're passing by with guests, you never get used to that in the hour. It's always weird because they're always staring at you too, like your animatronics or something. So the last part of the tour, we're in the spice area. This is where they grow their spices. You have a whole area set up just for this tour where he does like a spice challenge, where you smell them and you have to guess what they are. This was a really interesting part. And then, of course, I never knew this topiary was here, but because you see the other Mickey tree in the next greenhouse on the left side when you ride the ride, but this one's hidden unless you're back here. So you can actually get a pretty cool picture with it like that. A very cool picture, if I do say so myself. And then so we did the spice challenge. I didn't record any of that. And then essentially our tour was over. We get walked back to the starting point. We had some cast members come out while we were on the tour, and they started to clean up those. Oh boy, they started to clean up some of the Casa Banana area, but so they harvest every Tuesday, he said. So they were not harvesting that day since it was a Saturday, but yeah, we'll get to a final wrap up here in a second. All right, giant fans of fun, that is going to do it for the Behind the Seeds tour. My final opinion of it, I thought it was fantastic. It's the regular price ranges from $39 to $45 depending on the day. I think during peak season they might bump it up a few bucks, but we got the 20% off 20% off of it with our annual pass discount, so we only paid like $33. But $39, we'll go with that for an hour-long tour, and it was the full hour. We were constantly getting info. The tour like never stopped. There was never a downtime. And I'll be honest, for an hour of listening to scientific talk about agriculture and gardening and plants, things I'm not really interested in that much, the time flew by. I was really engaged and interested the entire time. I think everyone was. I didn't get a final video with my friends that did the tour. They didn't want to be on camera very much, so that's fine, but they all loved it. My friend Christine, she's like me. We both wanted to do this tour. We both love living with the land, and we were both absolutely 100% satisfied with the tour. I think it's one of the better values you're going to get at Disney, especially for a behind this backstage tour like this. When you're talking Keys of the Kingdom, things like that, it's a lot more expensive typically than something like this. So for $40, I think it's well worth the price. Our guide was fantastic, super knowledgeable, super friendly, just perfect for that role. You can tell he's passionate about agriculture, and just sharing that info with people. You could tell he was a teacher in his prior career. So yeah, that's all I've got. I'm quick and dirty review of it, just kind of take you along with us as we walked around some of the backstage areas. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'm happy to answer them. But I think that's going to do it for this video. I had a blast doing the behind the scenes tour. I hope you enjoyed the video, and get out there and make it a giant day of fun. We'll see you next time.